Welcome to Life Stories, where we share incredible tales of resilience, redemption, and empowerment. Today, we bring you the story of Emily, a woman whose life was shattered by betrayal but who found the strength to rise above her pain. From losing everything to reclaiming her father's legacy and confronting the man who wronged her. Emily's journey is a powerful reminder that courage and determination can overcome even the deepest wounds. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we dive into this unforgettable tale of transformation. Let's begin today's inspiring story together. Emily sat outside the Grand Los Angeles hotel, her tears streaming down her cheeks, her heart heavy with disbelief. Just 2 years ago, she had been overjoyed to marry Ryan, a man she believed to be kind and supportive. But now, her life was in shambles. The man she once thought of as her soulmate had revealed himself to be cruel, manipulative, and heartless. The humiliation she had just endured was too much to bear. At 25, Emily had been a vibrant woman, full of dreams and a deep love for the people around her. As the only daughter of Charles Bennett, a successful entrepreneur, she had grown up in privilege but was never one to flaunt it. Her father, a charismatic and loving man, often called her his princess, reminding her that one day she would inherit his business empire. Those words had always been a source of both pride and anxiety for Emily. She admired her father's success but doubted her ability to fill his shoes. When Charles passed away unexpectedly, Emily found herself at the helm of his vast company, overwhelmed and inexperienced. She leaned heavily on her father's trusted personal assistant, Ryan. He seemed like a godsend, always ready with kind words and practical advice. "You don't have to worry, Emily," he told her one afternoon with a reassuring smile. "I'll help you manage everything." Over time, Ryan became more than just an employee. His charm and support slowly broke down Emily's walls. He was attentive and thoughtful. And before long, he confessed his love for her. "Emily, I care about you deeply. Will you marry me?" Overwhelmed with emotion, she said yes, believing she had found not only a partner but someone who truly loved her for who she was. Their wedding was a fairy tale. The ceremony was grand, with hundreds of guests in attendance, and Emily felt like the luckiest woman alive. For the first 6 months, life seemed perfect. But then Ryan began to change. It started with subtle criticisms. "Emily, you've put on weight," he said one evening, his tone sharp. "You should lose some. People talk. You know." The comment stung deeply, but Emily stayed silent. She loved Ryan and didn't want to fight. As time went on, his comments grew harsher, and his control over her life tightened. "Let me handle the company," he insisted one day. "You don't know much about running a business." Trusting him completely, Emily agreed, believing he had her best interests at heart. But as the months passed, she noticed things weren't right. The company's financials were suffering. And when she asked about it, Ryan snapped at her. "Stop asking stupid questions. Just stay at home where you belong." Emily felt useless and unimportant, her confidence eroded by Ryan's constant belittling. She clung to the hope that things would improve. But then the final blow came. One afternoon, she found an envelope on the dining table. Inside were divorce papers. Her hands trembled as she read the words, her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. That evening, when Ryan came home, she confronted him. "Ryan, what is this? Why do you want a divorce?" Ryan's response was cold and cutting. "I'm tired of you, Emily. You're too fat. Who wants an elephant for a wife?" Without another word, he packed his bags and left. Emily was devastated. But her heartbreak turned to shock the next day when she visited her father's company. The gates were locked, and the security guard informed her, "The company is closed." Ryan sold everything. "What?" Emily gasped, unable to believe what she was hearing. The guard continued, "I heard Ryan launched a new company. They're celebrating at the Grand Hotel tonight. Emily's heart sank. Ryan hadn't just betrayed her, he had stolen everything her father had built. Determined to confront him, she went to the hotel that evening. The lavish hall was filled with influential people, all applauding Ryan as he stood on stage, laughing and holding a glass of champagne. Beside him was Rachel, her former best friend. The moment grew unbearable when Ryan took Rachel's hand and declared loudly, "Rachel, will you marry me?" The crowd erupted in cheers as Rachel smiled and said yes. Emily couldn't stay silent any longer. She stepped forward and shouted, "Ryan, how could you do this to me?" The room fell silent as Ryan turned, his expression shifting from shock to smugness. He walked toward her and sneered, "You're embarrassing yourself. Emily, you stole my father's company," she shouted. "And now you're with my best friend?" Ryan laughed cruelly. "Your father's company? You mean the one you were too incompetent to manage?" Before Emily could respond, Ryan slapped her across the face. The crowd gasped, and Ryan shouted to the security guards, "Get this whale out of here." Humiliated and in tears, Emily was dragged out of the hall. Sitting on the curb outside the hotel, she wiped her tears and thought of her father's words, "You are my princess." In that moment, something shifted inside her. She refused to let Ryan's betrayal define her. "You will pay for this, Ryan," she whispered to herself. And with that, Emily vowed to take back control of her life and honor her father's legacy. Emily sat on the curb outside the Grand Hotel, her hands trembling as she wiped the tears from her face. Her mind raced with thoughts of her father, Charles Bennett, a man who had built a business empire from the ground up and always reminded her of her worth. "You are my princess," he'd say, his voice filled with pride. Now, his legacy lay in ruins, stolen by the man she once trusted most. As she sat there, consumed by the weight of betrayal, a voice broke through her thoughts. "Emily, is that you?" She looked up, startled, to see a familiar figure standing before her. It was Michael, her childhood friend, now a renowned billionaire and one of the most successful businessmen in the country. "Michael," Emily said, her voice cracking with surprise and emotion. Michael crouched beside her, his sharp suit contrasting with the raw vulnerability on her tear-streaked face. "What happened?" he asked gently. "You look upset." The concern in his voice broke through her defenses. In halting words, Emily told him everything: her marriage to Ryan, his cruelty, the betrayal of her best friend Rachel, and the public humiliation she had just endured. Michael listened intently, his expression shifting from sympathy to anger as the story unfolded. "You shouldn't go back to an empty house in this state," Michael said after a long silence. "Come with me. Stay at my place tonight." Emily hesitated, unsure of what to do, but she was too heartbroken to argue. She nodded silently, and Michael helped her into his car. As they drove to his sprawling mansion on the outskirts of the city, Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of shame and gratitude. Michael had always been kind to her, but their lives had taken such different paths that she never imagined she'd rely on him like this. Michael's home was as grand as she remembered, yet it felt warm and inviting. He led her to the living room, where a fire crackled softly, and handed her a steaming cup of tea. "Do you remember how we used to climb mango trees as kids?" he asked, a small smile playing on his lips. Emily managed a faint smile. "Yes. And you always got scared of the bees." Michael chuckled, the sound breaking through the heaviness in the room. "You were braver than me even back then." They spent the evening reminiscing about their childhood, and for the first time in months, Emily felt a glimmer of comfort. "You're stronger than this, Emily," Michael said gently. "Don't let Ryan's actions define you." That night, Emily slept in the guest room, her heart still heavy but soothed by Michael's presence. When she woke the next morning, she resolved to visit her house and confront what was left of her life. However, when she arrived, she found the gates locked and her belongings scattered on the driveway. A neighbor came over and explained what had happened. Ryan sold the house. Emily. He moved out yesterday. The news was a final blow, leaving Emily feeling utterly abandoned. With nowhere else to go, she returned to Michael's mansion, tears streaming down her face. When Michael saw her at the door, her suitcase in hand, his heart broke. "Emily," he said softly, ushering her inside. "You don't have to face this alone." Over the next few days, Emily stayed with Michael, trying to piece together a plan for her future. One evening, while searching for something to eat, she stumbled upon a packet of herbal tea in the kitchen. "What's this?" she asked, holding it up to Michael. He smiled. "It's a special blend my mom used to drink. She struggled with her weight for years. But this, combined with her diet plan, changed her life." Emily looked at the tea thoughtfully. "Do you think it could help me?" It helped her. "I'm sure it can help you, too," Michael replied. "But you have to pair it with a healthy lifestyle." For the first time in weeks, a spark of determination lit up in Emily's eyes. "I'll do it," she said firmly. From that moment, her journey of transformation began. Michael became her biggest supporter, encouraging her every step of the way. He helped her design a diet plan, introduced her to fitness routines, and made sure she stayed consistent. Day by day, Emily worked tirelessly, determined not only to reclaim her confidence but to rebuild her life. Months passed, and Emily's dedication paid off. She stood in front of the mirror one morning and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Gone was the timid, broken version of herself. In her place stood a confident, radiant woman who was ready to face the world. "You look incredible," Michael said proudly when he saw her that morning. "Emily, you've always been beautiful, but now you seem unstoppable." Emily smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. "Thank you, Michael. I feel like I can finally take control of my life." Michael nodded, a mischievous glint in his eye. "And what's the first step?" Emily thought for a moment, her resolve hardening. "I'm going to make Ryan regret everything he did to me." Michael grinned. "I knew you'd say that. Let's get to work." Emily's transformation was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. She was no longer the timid woman who let Ryan dictate her life. She was stronger now, more determined than ever to reclaim her father's legacy and hold Ryan accountable for his actions. With Michael's unwavering support, she crafted a plan to infiltrate Ryan's new life and bring him down from the inside. The opportunity presented itself at an exclusive business event Michael was invited to. "This event is going to be full of influential people, including Ryan," Michael told her. "Are you ready for this?" Emily smiled, her confidence shining through. "I'm more than ready. But for this to work, you'll introduce me as your sister, Megan, who just returned from studying abroad." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Megan? I like it. Let's teach Ryan a lesson he won't forget." The evening of the event, Emily walked into the grand ballroom wearing a sleek, elegant black dress that hugged her newly toned figure. Heads turned as she entered, her aura of confidence commanding attention. She walked beside Michael, her arm lightly linked with his. As they mingled with the crowd, for the first time in years, Emily felt in control. It didn't take long for her eyes to land on Ryan. He was standing in a corner, surrounded by a group of people, laughing and gesturing animatedly. He looked the same. But to Emily, he seemed smaller now, a man whose cruelty had once crushed her but who now barely registered as a threat. Ryan's eyes eventually met hers, and he froze. He didn't recognize her but was clearly captivated by her presence. Moments later, he made his way over. His curiosity piqued. "Michael." Ryan greeted, his tone friendly but with an undertone of competition. "Who's the beautiful lady with you?" Michael smirked. "Ryan. Meet Megan. My sister. She just got back from studying in Europe." Ryan extended his hand toward Emily, his smile suave. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Megan." Emily took his hand, her grip firm but composed. "The pleasure is mine," she replied smoothly. Her voice was calm, but inside, she was already calculating her next move. Throughout the evening, Ryan couldn't keep his eyes off her. Emily played her part perfectly, engaging him in polite conversation while maintaining an air of mystery. She listened intently as he boasted about his new company, feigning admiration. "I've heard about your business," she said, her voice soft but deliberate. "It's impressive. I'd love the chance to work with someone as brilliant as you." Ryan's ego swelled visibly. "You want to work for me?" he asked, surprised but intrigued. "Yes," Emily replied with a small smile. "I think I could learn a lot from you." Ryan hesitated for a moment. Hiring the sister of a billionaire like Michael would elevate his reputation, and he was eager to impress her. "Consider it done," he said, smiling. As Ryan walked away to rejoin his group, Michael leaned in toward Emily. "Well played," he whispered. "You've got him hooked." Emily smirked, her determination unwavering. "This is just the beginning." Within days, Emily, now Megan, joined Ryan's company as his personal assistant. She played her role flawlessly, arriving early, staying late, and ensuring that Ryan came to depend on her completely. "You're amazing, Megan," he told her one evening after she helped him finalize a presentation. "I don't know how I managed without you." Emily gave him a modest smile. "Just doing my job, Mr. Parker." Behind the scenes, Emily carefully studied Ryan's business operations. She uncovered flaws, manipulated his schedule, and planted seeds of doubt among his investors. All the while, she maintained her facade as the loyal and caring assistant, slowly gaining Ryan's trust. Meanwhile, tensions between Ryan and Rachel were escalating. Rachel had noticed how much time Ryan spent with Megan and was growing increasingly suspicious. "Why does she have to stay so late?" Rachel demanded one night. "She's helping me with work." Ryan replied dismissively. "She's more supportive than you are." Rachel's face reddened with anger, but she said nothing. Emily, watching from the shadows, knew she was achieving exactly what she had planned. As weeks turned into months, Ryan became increasingly infatuated with Megan. He began confiding in her, seeking her approval, and even cancelling plans with Rachel to spend more time at the office. Emily played her role perfectly, subtly feeding his ego while keeping him at arm's length. She knew the moment would come when Ryan would cross the line. And when he did, her trap would be ready to spring. Back at Michael's mansion, Emily often debriefed her progress with him. "You seem so calm about everything," Michael remarked one evening. "Doesn't it bother you being around him after everything he's done?" Emily sighed, her expression thoughtful. "It's not easy, Michael. But I'm not the same person I was before. He can't hurt me anymore." Michael hesitated, watching her closely. "What if you're playing with fire? What if he finds a way to strike back?" Emily placed a reassuring hand on his. "He won't, Michael. I promise." Despite her confidence, Michael couldn't help feeling uneasy. He had always cared for Emily as a friend. But now, those feelings were evolving into something deeper. The thought of her spending so much time with Ryan made his chest tighten. Though he tried to suppress it, he knew she had a plan, and he had to trust her. Emily, however, was focused on her goal. Ryan had taken everything from her: her father's company, her dignity, her sense of self-worth. Now, it was her turn to take everything from him, piece by piece, and she was just getting started. As Emily stood in Ryan's office, watching his empire crumble under the weight of her carefully orchestrated plan, she felt a sense of closure she hadn't thought possible. Ryan, now desperate and humiliated, realized too late the trap he had fallen into. Emily, no longer the vulnerable woman he had once discarded, was now a force of resilience and empowerment. With her father's legacy restored and her confidence renewed, Emily walked out of the building, her head held high. She had turned her pain into power. proving that no betrayal could define her future. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about rediscovering strength and self-worth. If Emily's journey inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow Life Stories for more tales of courage and transformation. See you in our next video.